I would like to know from each one of you if you feel like charter schools, like what you feel the relationship is between charter schools and government mandated curriculums.
I'll take that one.
Okay.
Let me go first this time.
Do you clarify your question real quick first, though?
So that's a very broad question. I realize that it probably means something different to each one of you. For instance, I am an educator by profession, by training, and so when you're looking at a curriculum that's before you for a year, you have a certain amount of time that you have to do that, and you have a certain amount of educational minutes. So when you have a core curriculum and you have a state mandated curriculum, where do you draw the line? Where do you say we stay with the core, or you would take what the state says?
My understanding is that a charter school has more freedom to follow or not follow the mandates, and depending on maybe the mandate or the charter, the way it is written. And I believe that was the design of a charter school, and it would be the what does the membership desire? Because each charter school is made for a specific membership. One charter in North Fort Collins isn't going to be the same as South Loveland, because the demographics are different and the membership is different. So depending on what the mandate is and what the membership is desiring, that should be what controls what and how the charter school teaches.
So I guess we'll go down the other way. So we had the benefit on the last, and they can have a benefit. So a charter school, what's interesting is that charter schools operate very similarly to how Ames Community College operates, which is why it's easy for me to conceptualize, because Ames is not technically part of the state system. It's a local tax district authority school. So we still have to answer to all of the state learning outcomes. There are certain state learning outcomes that we have to make sure that we have in place and that we are responsible to. But we have a little bit more flexibility than the state schools because we don't have that added layer of the district or whomever telling us exactly how we have to implement and get to those learning outcomes. And so with the parent survey, like you were talking about, Tara, that it was really clear that the number one most valuable thing that parents saw here was the core knowledge curriculum. I think that it puts a burden on us in terms of we have to answer those state mandated outcomes, and we have to be tested. We have to test our schools with TCAP whether we like it or not. We just have to do it. There's no way around it. If we're going to accept state funding, and we can't operate if we don't accept state funding. So we have to implement that, and we also want to make sure that our curriculum is helping our students learn what we value as a charter school. And so I've laid out kind of the relationship between the school, the district, and the state. It puts a lot of pressure on our teachers. And so I think we need to build in as many supports for our teachers in trying to implement that curriculum as we can.
Thank you. I would appreciate that as a teacher.
Well, he had a very excellent answer. I don't know what you can go off of that, but what I would just say is along the lines of you still have to go with the state guidelines. And you do have some flexibility, like I've said, but those government funding dollars are very, very important to keep the school going. So, you know, because somebody doesn't like something doesn't mean we just throw it out and then risk losing the funding. So we just really have to, you really have to be careful on what the state says you can and cannot do and go from there.
I would answer with, the reason I chose the Charter Academy and the core knowledge system is because of the building blocks, the way that they teach kids. I can say that personally, when I went through the public school, I would have benefited from that type of teaching. If they would have tried to teach me maybe chemistry before 8th grade, maybe it would have actually clicked. And I saw the benefit in my children starting to learn these basic concepts and building on them every year instead of waiting to introduce them. I did my research. I made a conscious decision as a parent to choose this school because it was going to give my children a more diverse background in their education, a better understanding of more complicated concepts, and it also had parent involvement. I was involved in the decisions that would be made for my child and be involved in their education. I wasn't going to have the government telling me how my child should learn and what testing needs to happen. Now, that being said, there has to be balance. We can't just say, no, we're not going to do it. We have to keep within the guidelines that we have to meet state requirements. I agree with supporting teachers in whatever they need to be able to benefit our students and keep them able to meet the needs of the TCAP testing. But I also think that parent-driven decision-making and administrators and teachers involved in all of us deciding what's best for our school is what this school was founded on, and I think that we should stick with that.
It's kind of tough being at the end. Because they were all wonderful answers. Really, this question right here is exactly how I can assist the board. As was previously mentioned, there are absolutely those core things that the state mandates to get those funds. Aside from that, there are best practices out there, methodologies that are proven through research that align with core knowledge and align with the personality of the school, because it really takes on a personality of its own. And that's really something that I would love to bring to the board and to the school is how do we implement these best practices? How do we implement them? How do we get teachers on board? How do we choose what teachers want to use and what teachers don't want to use? Every single teacher is so different in the classroom. Each person has a different personality in the classroom. And so what works for one person absolutely does not for another. And so in that flexibility, I really feel as though that's where those sort of best practices need to come into play in the classroom and allow teachers to sort of put their spin on a lesson. There are actually a lot of lesson plans and things of that nature being posted up online, and districts saying, all right, this is what you're going to teach today. You're going to say this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to say this. It takes the artistry out of the classroom. And when the artistry is removed from the classroom, that's why that's why parents come to charter academies. It's for that reason. Sorry, we call it bird blocking.
I don't think I heard a bad answer up the line here. Let me add my take on this. I understand behind your question is that tension that a teacher has with so many minutes to teach and perhaps too much to teach in it, and the dilemma of what do I teach on a particular day or through a 9-month curriculum. That was a tension I was really talking about earlier as a board member. There are those tensions, and a board member is expected to address those, both the legal mandatory requirements and also to be in honor of the charter school concept. That which you started and had approved and now are chugging along with. So as a board member, I think you have to be part protector, because we're not an island, we're kind of a peninsula. We get our funding up the little strip of land, but we're kind of a community off here because we want to do it our way. And we have the right to do it our way because the charter says we can within all the 17 other constraints and parameters. So that's where legal training can be helpful, because there's a concept of what they call statutory construction, and that is, it says that if the legislature should enact a statute, you can hold them to what they said, and if they didn't put something in there that they try to kind of wishy-wash to it in application, you can stop that, and that's the protection of the Charter Academy concept. Now, coming around full circle to your question, it seems to me like a board member has to be out there in front so that it gives you the most leeway in my thinking would be toward the core knowledge and the protection of those concepts, because let's face it, folks, that's what works. The other one is not working so well. And of course, again, that's my interest, because this is the seed that needs to be fertilized, not the other one.
Thank
I
you very
think we
much.
need to give all these candidates